Good evening to everyone. Welcome to Level Up IS Masterclass. Today we have a very special guest to share her views, to share her experience with prelims examination. So today our guest is Rujuta Bankar, and let me introduce her first. Rujuta Bankar has a master degree in constitutional law as well as in international relations. She has worked in district courts also, but the most important thing that she secured 325 rank in UPSC Civil Service examination. Also, she is one of the few candidates who have consistently cleared all six prelims, and in one of the prelims she scored 149 marks, and in most of the prelims examinations she scored more than 130 marks. So there is a major question among the students that what should be the strategy to clear the prelims examination, and I think she is the best person to share her strategy and what students should do to clear the prelims examination. So I welcome Rujuta Bankar on Level Up IS platform, and I must say thanks. I'm really thankful to her to take out some time, and she's here to speak and share her experience regarding prelims examination. So I will request Rujuta to start her session on how to score more than 120 plus marks in prelims examination.
Thank you, sir, for that wonderful introduction. It was indeed really, really nice. I would like to request you to enable screen share for me. So I have a PowerPoint presentation so that I think it will be more concrete that way. But hello to all those watching right now. And mains is going on. So I think everyone is kind of right now analyzing so many the papers that are coming in. I'm just yeah, so do I have? No, not yet.
I shared, but that screen, uh, I think you will not be able to use that screen.
Okay. Um, okay, I can, but I think I won't be able to share this.
Yes. If you will send it to me, then I will definitely
Sure,
share on your
sure,
behalf.
sure. Okay. So I can just begin without it,
Yes,
so it's
please,
fine, it's fine.
please.
Uh, so when it comes to prelims, I think a lot of students have a matter of concern that it is just so vast, or the nature of the exam is such that they're asking any sort of questions, and how do we prepare considering the unpredictable nature of prelims examination. So that seems to be the most common question that comes from students. Another is, I think, I'll just define the kind of questions first so that I can move ahead and try to address those very questions. Another question that is often seen is how to revise for prelims, because since I have said earlier that it is so vast, and then how do you revise all the different topics that are there for prelims. So those are a few main things that I would like to address, and after that I think going ahead we can address the questions that we will have coming in. Just a second, sir. I will. Yeah. Uh, so the first thing I would like to say is that when it comes to prelim, I think there are three main things that should be focused on. And those three main things are, first, most important thing is to have fixed sources. And uh, you should not, because it is so vast and because it is so hard to define, once you yourself decide to fix your sources and determine that okay, this is exactly what I am going to study, I think that helps in the preparation a lot. So that is the first most important thing. It is to have fixed sources. I will go into the details of that. The second thing is to have a definite timetable and to revise as per that timetable. The third thing, which I think most candidates miss, everyone says that, okay, I have prepared for prelims so much, I have studied everything that there is to study, all sources and everything. But I think the reason why success might be elusive, or especially for freshers who are giving the exam for the first time, the most important thing I would say is that of temperament. And temperament is a point that we tend to miss. What do we mean by temperament? By temperament, I mean the mindset that you have going into the exam, going into the exam hall, your level of confidence, how you are feeling about the exam. I think that is the most crucial point that a lot of us tend to miss. So, sir, I would like to just inform you that I have shared the PowerPoint with you. So, if you could show that up on the screen, I could just run through the PowerPoint.
Okay, I will do.
Yeah, I apologize. I had not sent the PowerPoint earlier.
No issue.
Yeah.
At
the last moment, I thought that it'll be easier for the participants to follow if I have a PowerPoint. So I just made it a while back and I decided to share it.
Okay.
So yes, going back to the 3 points that I was focusing on: fixed sources, like I said, timetable and revision, and the third one is temperament. So what do I mean by fixed sources? By fixing the sources, I mean defining the boundaries of your studies, of what you're going to prepare. So this includes two things. First is the topics that you're going to study under each of the subjects. And secondly, it includes the uh, place or the source or the book from where you are going to study those topics. So what I like to do is I like to always divide prelims preparation, the subjects, into 5. When we compare it to mains preparation, the very good thing about mains is that mains has a fairly extensively defined and detailed syllabus. So even if one were to prepare the entire syllabus line by line, at least there is a sense of like having prepared well for mains. With pre, the thing is that if you look at the syllabus, it's fairly short. It's not that much in detail. So what I like to do is I like to have 5 main subjects that, okay, these 5 I have to complete, and then define each of these 5 subjects. So the 5 subjects are, which most of you know, is I like to combine geography and environment. So we have geography and environment, history and culture, economy, polity, and science and tech. So those are the 5 subjects. Then what I do is that I like to define the topics under each, or what are the things that I have to study under that. So it might happen that if you directly look at the prelims paper, you might not know that this question is coming from where. Okay, but the best thing to do is to slot those questions under any of these 5 subjects. So for example, if I were to take the example of polity, right? Then under polity, I would have constitution, the Indian constitution per se, that would be one topic. After that, I would have the topic of theory, political theory. What is meant by political theory? These days, you must have seen that there are a lot of questions related to rights or related to democracy, citizenship, these kind of questions. So that is theory. Okay, then there are case laws that again, so many questions these days are coming in mains as well as in pre, where the answer to the question is actually based on a better understanding of the case laws. Why? Because there is an exposition of a particular article. Like if you were to take article 21, then there are so many case laws related to article 21. So if you were to study those case laws in detail, you can understand that article better, and then you will be able to answer those questions as well better. Then, so this is basic polity. But after that, it's very important that you have a topic such as government schemes, which you will include under polity, then international institutions, then reports and indices. Okay, so these topics, if you were to club it under polity, your studying will get more streamlined. And then we have the current affairs related to polity. After that, another example I would like to take is that of science and tech. So similarly, science and tech, we generally just tend to do general science and then current affairs related to science and tech. But if you were to properly prepare science and tech as a defined subject, then the topics that you should cover under science and tech are: first, you have general science that you will prepare from NCRTs, the very basic science. After that, there are certain topics that you have to prepare the static of, not just the current affairs, not just the things that are in the news, but the static of these topics. This includes space, it includes defense, basics of biotechnology, these kind of topics. Because what happens is that they like to ask questions such as what is the difference between, I mean, not directly, but having a knowledge of this will help you answer prelims questions, such as what is the difference between GSLV, PSLV, or geosynchronous and sun synchronous, or the integrated guided missile development program. So that program per se might not be in the news, but you should know which are the missiles which were developed under that program, because they like to ask what is the range of this particular missile, and that particular missile might not be in the news, because this is basic stuff that you just need to know when you are studying science and tech. So that is why I am stressing it so much, that it's very important to define the topics. That so how can you just define the topics? What you can do is you can look at past year question papers, at least the past 5 years, and then you can try to determine where have these questions been asked from, or under which topic will I slot those questions. Because once you do that, then you can make sure that for sure you are studying that topic, and not, it won't seem कि अरे ये तो question out of the blue कहीं से भी आ गया, पता नहीं, how will I even prepare this question. Because I feel like if you were to prepare government schemes very thoroughly, or if you were to prepare the static of science and tech current questions very thoroughly, then we tend to cover at least like 60 to 70% of preparation that is required to be done. So the first topic, that thing I was saying, was about fixed sources. And another thing is, why fixed sources? That is because, and this is a very controversial point that I'm going to say now, and I know it is controversial because so many of my friends who have cleared prelims, who are in the services with me, have not followed this. And like I said, I would like to stress that whatever I am telling all of you right now, that's just what has worked for me. There is no मतलब कोई गुरु के लिए, या there is no master key कि अगर ये कर लिया तो हो गया. But definitely I can tell you whatever I'm telling you right now is, I mean, I tried and tested and I fine-tuned it and it worked for me, right? So yeah, so the point I was going to make is that don't leave anything for option. Okay, so a lot of people, I know a lot of people do not do culture, or don't do ancient medieval, or they will not get into the details of environment, or rather ecology. People won't do ecology because ये बहुत ज़्यादा है, इतना कौन करेगा, time नहीं है, waste हो जाएगा time, right? So I have heard a hell lot of excuses when it comes to why people, it's UPSC is telling you कि भाई ये syllabus है, ये पढ़ के exam दे दो. So I don't know why people just tend to कि नहीं general science क्यों करना है, वो तो basic है. And then the funny thing is, people with engineering or medical science background will get the science questions wrong, and someone from like an arts background will get it right just because they have studied it. So I think it's better not to be overconfident, even if you might know a subject very well. See, right? So if you feel like, okay, I know general science, it's so easy. So it's good that if you know general science, just put in 2 hours. It will take you hardly like 1 or 2 hours to just go through the NCRTs. It will refresh all of your concepts. And when you attempt that question, you will be 100% sure कि ये तो मैंने NCRT में पढ़ा था. I had read this and I know that this is the answer, rather than sitting there and thinking, यार ये तो मैंने 10वीं क्लास में पढ़ा था. I don't know whether this is the right answer, right? So what is very important, I feel, is to not leave anything for option. Whatever the syllabus is, uh, whatever the small topics are, it might be environment, it might be ancient, it might be the most topic that you feel is so boring, or medieval से तो कुछ आता नहीं है, ये क्यों पढ़ना है. तो ऐसे नहीं होता है. Just read anything, everything. And by saying this, I am not telling you to do donkey work, okay? I am telling you to do hard work, and I'm telling you to do, most importantly, smart work. So doing smart work means playing to your strengths. uh, Playing to your strengths is giving more time for the subjects that you are not good at, and giving less time to the subjects that you might be good at. But that does not mean that you don't study the subject at all. Okay. Okay, so that brings me to my next point. So fixed sources and not leaving anything to option was my first point. The second is timetable and revision. So sir, is the PowerPoint access available, or
Yeah. I'm trying to. I will just take another 1 minute to
okay.
put it on the screen. Till then, I think please continue, and
Okay,
the
okay,
moment I
sir.
will put it on the screen, I will inform.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I've realized that it's just easier when I write it
Yes,
down, or
yes, yes, yes,
it's like easier to follow whatever I have been
yes, ma'am.
seeing so far. So yeah. Okay. So the first, that was the point that I was stressing a lot, that define your sources, and uh, don't leave anything. Okay, so that's what we tend to hear a lot, ki ye chhod diya topic, wo chhod diya. So don't do that. The next is to make a defined timetable for your subjects. So I will take the example of about 100-day timetable, which I will put on the screen in a while. 100 days, because see, if one thing, two caveats rather. The first thing is, I am assuming that everyone has read for prelims or has studied at least once. Okay, you for prelims, matlab in general, like you have at this point, if you are giving the pre this year, the hope is that you have at least read Lakshmikant once in January. Okay, if you have not read it even once, then take the end of Jan, till the end of Jan, to at least read everything once. Okay, because you cannot be starting prelims preparation without having read your subjects even once. As in, prelims preparation is a different thing, and reading a book for the first time is a different thing. Okay, so when I talk about prelims preparation per se, there is an assumption that you have read Lakshmikant, for example, or you have read geography NCRT, or you have read I don't know, like some history book, Spectrum or Bipin Chandra or whatever. So you are not sitting here entirely blank with, कि अभी तो prelims की तैयारी करेंगे. ऐसे नहीं होता है. If you're going to prepare for UPSC, there is an assumption कि पहली बार तो आप लोगों ने पढ़ रखा है, and then you are preparing for pre, because whatever I'm going to tell you will only work if you have prepared for, I mean, if you have studied everything at least once. Okay, once I'm saying, I'm not even saying कि बहुत बार पढ़ा है, but at least once I'm hoping that you have read and you have understood whatever queries you have asked your teachers, and then okay, now I'm going to prepare for pre. Okay, that kind of a thing. So hopefully you have read your optional, and all that is done, and that is why I'm focusing on about 100 days. That for these specific 100 days, your focus should be on uh, prelims only. Sir, if you could go to slide number 6. Yeah. So, like I was saying, I am focusing on about a roughly 100 days because it would help me in explaining how I would usually go about it. So, for the first, if it's your first attempt, 100 days is what, 3.5 months. So, if it's your first attempt, maybe you would require a little bit more time. May, April, March, so end of February, right? If it's your first attempt, then you might want to begin at the beginning of February till the end of May. I think that would be a good amount of time to prepare for pre. If it's your first attempt, if it is more than your first attempt, then 100 days are too much. I feel फिर तो मतलब end of March is also fine, but ठीक है, approximately we'll take an example of 100 days, right? तो 100 days तो minimum करना ही है if you have not cleared pre before. If you have cleared pre before, तो lesser days. Okay, so for 100 days, okay, this is again why I like pre is that prelims is fairly, I think, mathematical in terms of the answer is in front of you, right? There are only 4 options. One of those options is the answer. Secondly, you can define your sources, define your padhai, and then you can make a timetable, keep revising very strictly again and again, and then be done with it. Compared to mains where there is a lot of subjectivity, I think the thing with pre is like for sure it can be cracked. That I really truly believe that, because you can, there are always bound to be unpredictable questions. It's not in your hands to attempt the unpredictable questions. Your focus should be, you should never get the static questions wrong or the basic questions wrong. जो history, polity, economic के basic questions होते हैं. If you were to look at the paper with a cool mind outside the exam hall, trust me, you will realize that, oh, so many of these questions I could have attempted. So if you go about your prelims preparation with a mathematical precision कि ये सब करना है, then I think you do have a very good chance of clearing pre. So again, back to what I was saying. So 100 days may, earlier I told you that there are 5 subjects that I usually like to break down the syllabus into. And so if I have to dedicate 5 days, 100 days, so that would come out to about 20 days per subject. Again, we have our own strengths and weaknesses. So someone with a science background might not require 20 days for general science, or someone with a legal background might not require those many days for polity, or someone whose optional is economy might not require 20 days for economy. So again, so play to your strengths and weaknesses, but roughly we have around 20 days for each subject. So it is very important to have at least 1 reading followed by 3 revisions before pre. Okay, now this might seem like a tall order, but it works. I mean, if you were to really plan your preparation that well, you can do it. So 1 reading, and like I said before, this 1 reading is other than the मतलब जो पहले आपने पढ़ रखा है अंडरस्टैंडिंग वाला, this is like prelims prep. So you need to have that 1 reading and then followed by 3 revisions. This 100 days is other than the last 1 week before pre. So if your pre is on a particular Sunday, then the week before that, till the Sunday before that, वो week नहीं count करना है. Other than that, the 100 days you can plan. And so, like I was saying, you need 1 reading and you need 3 revisions after that. So here on the screen, you can see that I have made a rough chart where it is 8 days of first reading. So you will say, ki, ma'am, how is it even possible to finish Lakshmikant in 8 days? That is too much to take, and okay, all of that. So the point is not to finish entire Lakshmikant in 8 days. Okay. So what is to be done is prioritize the subject, prioritize the topics, that okay, polity में मुझे सबसे high priority में क्या पढ़ना है, या like where are the questions that most on most frequently asked questions in polity, where do they come from? So that I think is the parliament chapter से बहुत questions आते हैं, FR and DPSP and constitutional non-constitutional bodies. These are certain very high priority kind of topics. And similarly for each of the subjects, you will see, like if you take geography, then there tend to be questions related to like climatology, cyclones से related questions काफी आते हैं. So those kind of questions. So you can determine that, okay, these are the most high priority topics, and in the first reading, try to finish these maximum high priority kind of topics that you have. So in those 8 days, your focus should be at least to finish about 60 to 70 or 75% of the syllabus, so that at least the high priority topics you have read. Okay. And then for when you do the next revision, what you have to do is you have to begin with the part that you left out. Okay, so there might be these smaller topics, like in polity. I keep taking the example of polity because I mean, I have a legal background, I like polity, I used to teach polity. So if you need any other examples, you can ask me in the comments. So the second time, like the second revision, when you begin, what you should do is those leftover topics, like in polity you might not have read center state relations or PRI, panchayati raj, urban local bodies, या you know there might be like fifth sixth schedule, या ऐसे कोई topics होंगे जो आपने बिल्कुल नहीं पढ़े हैं. So start with those topics. Why? Because that ensures that you have not missed anything. So in this manner, and you will ensure an entire coverage of the syllabus, at least from what is there in front of you. So Lakshmikant, of course, is not enough. Like that's just for reading the basics. So that is why earlier when I was telling you that you need to define the topics. So constitution is just one topic of polity. Then you have political theory also. Now where do I do political theory from? So you can do it from DD Basu, but again, I would recommend that only if you've read DD Basu already, or if you have PSIR as your optional, you can read a little bit of theory from that. Or the best thing to do is if you have a friend who has PSIR as their optional, friend ko pakdo bolo, at least ye basic wale concepts mujhe, you know, citizenship, equality, democracy, ये basic वाले concepts थोड़े थोड़े मेजर जो थिंकर्स है वो बता दो ऐसे, यू नो, जस्ट टेल योर फ्रेंड टू टीच यू, बिकॉज थियोरी से बहुत ज्यादा क्वेश्चंस आ रहे हैं, एंड आई डोंट थिंक दैट देयर इज एनी सॉर्ट ऑफ डिफाइंड सोर्स, और यू कैन आस्क योर टीचर्स हियर in the class that how do we tackle these theory related questions, what are the sources for that. And then you have to read government schemes as well when it comes to polity. So when I say polity, so that is why 8 days में पूरा दिन ये करना might be a little bit too much, and you have to do current affairs also. So I'll get to current affairs in a bit. And so a lot of people don't like doing the same subject continuously for so many days, and that I can understand. I mean, it can get really boring and cumbersome to keep reading the same thing over and over again. So what you can do is you can mix things up. So यहाँ पे second line में you can see that I have tried to combine the same thing. So you can pick a subject that you find interesting and a subject that you find boring, and then kind of combine them. So if you like economy but you don't like history, then you can do 16 days of economy with history. Or if you like modern history and you don't like ancient, then what you can do is you can read modern history in the first half of the day and you can read ancient history in the second half of the day. ऐसे मतलब you can combine things, you can mix things up to make them more interesting. Or how to study is, I think, a very individualized kind of a thing. But the point I'm trying to make here is not that exactly you have to follow the timetable. The point I'm trying to make, I mean, this timetable, the point I'm trying to make is do have a timetable and do make sure that you have at least 3 revisions, okay? 1 reading and 3 revisions before you're giving pre. And I think this is a point that a lot of people miss, because there is इतना मतलब haphazard पढ़ाई होती है that oh shit, revision रह गया, pre आ गई, and फिर एक बार revision करें, तो people barely get in like 1 revision or 2 revisions before pre. So now you will ask me, ma'am, how can we revise in 2 days or how can we revise in 4 days? That will be just नाम के लिए रिविजन हो जाएगी. So that depends on how you are studying, or rather how you are preparing for the exam. Sir, if you could go to the next slide. Is it working?
Yes, yes.
So, what I mean by how you're preparing is that you need to have, while studying, you need to underline in a manner, or you need to color code things, or you need to read in a manner that you yourself can revise what you're reading later. Like here, I have drawn a timetable. So I used to make an actual like pen and paper leke timetable essay with such kind of rows and columns and pura. So day one. So for example, if tomorrow was the day one of my 100 days, then I have written history, and then I have counted 8 days, and then history ends. फिर उसके बाद में economy, so that kind of timetable you can make. Sir, if we can go to the next slide, please. So yeah. So how do you revise? The best way to revise would be to have the first time that you're reading, okay, you should just try to understand what the subject is, try to just understand what the topic is. Because if you were to start making notes the very first time that you read, okay, and then this game in general bol rahi hu, not just related to this plan, but if you were to start making notes the very first time that you read, or if you were to even start underlining the very first time that you read, everything seems new, so you end up underlining the book, or your notes seem to be like a mini version of the book, which is not a good idea. So the first time that you read, I would recommend just roughly going through the book. I'm hoping at this point you've already done your first reading, but still, after that, the second time I would recommend underlining things, or you can color code it if that is something that you prefer. And then the third time around that you read, or maybe even the second time if that works for you, you can start making notes. By note making, I don't mean ki pura ka pura book mein, or writing major points. When you're reading for the second time, you will realize that there are certain things that you did not remember at all despite reading it the first time. So those are the things that that okay, I'm not remembering these things, so I probably need to write this down somewhere. Or you can do a very small essay, short may you can write down things. Like for example, for constitutional, non-constitutional bodies, you can make a table कि इसकी सर्च कमिटी ये है, सिलेक्शन कमिटी ये है, क्वालिफिकेशंस ये है, और जब for fundamental rights you can just make a list of what are the fundamental rights rather than just going into the details. For most of these subjects I think that can be done. Or if you're referring spectrum, then there is the पीछे वो synopsis दिया होता है, so you can refer that for your revision. So if you see, the thing is now we tend to just read things once or twice and then we feel like मुझे तो कुछ याद ही नहीं आ रहा है, मैंने सिर्फ 2 बार पढ़ा है. But of course you've only read it twice. How do you like, don't be so hard on yourself कि याद नहीं आ रहा है, 2 ही बार पढ़ा है तो कैसे याद आएगा. I mean, it's read it at least. Not everyone has a photographic memory. So if you read it at least 2-3 times, then you're bound to remember. Okay, so you need to train your brain for this. Don't consider that I'm not smart enough because I'm not remembering it. Plan करके पढ़ाई करो, चीजें याद आ जाएंगी if you do it again and again. So the earlier 100 days plan, this part I had kind of forgotten. When you make the 100-day plan, before beginning that week, you can make a detailed plan for that week, and a day before you make a daily plan. So for example, वहाँ पे था that if I'm doing like 8 days of history, for example, if I'm doing 16 days of history plus economy, then that week I will write down that okay, इस week मुझे मॉडर्न करना है, या ये टॉपिक्स कंप्लीट करने हैं, या ज्योग्राफी का आई हैव टू कंप्लीट these particular topics. And then the day before, try to make a very detailed plan, because see, only when you do this you realize कि यार मतलब मेरे तो थोड़े शेख चिल्ली के सपने हैं. I had a very idealistic plan in mind कि इतना हो जाएगा, but then the day before when you sit and you make that timetable that okay, from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. I am going to do what I'm going to complete oceanography. Okay, you decide कि ये 3 घंटे में I'm going to finish oceanography. So that also I think keeps a tab on yourself, where you realize कि अरे भाई 10:30 बज गए और I have hardly finished any of oceanography. So that daily plan, it really concretizes a lot of things, where you are putting things down on paper कि ऐसी पढ़ाई करनी है मुझे. Not that I'm sitting here, हाँ अगले हफ्ते तो मतलब NCERT खत्म हो जाएगी. कैसे खत्म होगी? Is it, do you have it down on paper where you're going to read from what, from where you're going to read what? So even if you were to do oceanography, then write कि अभी ये NCERT के ये chapter number this to this, from time this to this. So my sister actually used to make a lot of fun of me कि like वो दिल चाहता है मैं होता है ना उसका दोस्त. You know that, sir, do you know दिल चाहता है मैं उसका वो दोस्त होता है, yeah, and he kind of plans everything and he remembers. So my sister used to like make a lot of fun of me कि ये क्या इतना planning कौन करता है, but trust me, it is like, it doesn't matter. मैं pass हो गई ना exam. I'm having the time of my life right now in OJT in Mumbai. So I mean, you work hard and then you get success. तो ठीक है मतलब, even if people make fun of you कि कितना planning चल रहा है यहाँ पे, but it works, right? So then make a daily timetable and make it एकदम detailed, okay, like इतना time है. So then you will realize, so this is why everyone has to make a customized thing. For someone might be a very fast reader and they might be able to read many pages in a span of short time. So you need to determine that how many pages are there, how many hours do I have, and how can I read this actually. And it is not about finishing books. I have not written this on the slide, but why I keep stressing topic wise reading is because sometimes you might think, okay, अभी मुझे GC Leong पूरा खत्म करना है, या मुझे ये 12th standard की या 11th standard की NCERT खत्म करनी है. NCERT खत्म करने से या GC Leong खत्म करने से कुछ नहीं होने वाला. It's about finishing those particular topics. So you might, if you're sitting with geography NCERT, and if you are reading if you're reading ocean currents from geography NCERT, and after reading that ocean currents topic or that entire ocean related topics, you still cannot answer the questions, then read NCERT along with GC Leong. ऐसे नहीं है कि बैठ के पूरी NCERT पढ़ ली फिर पूरा GC Leong पढ़ लिया, then your brain is not making any interconnections. So these interconnections are very important. So when you are doing, for example, if you finish entire oceanography from NCERT, follow it up with GC Leong and only read the part or underline the part that is not there in the NCERT. Okay, so you're kind of supplementing your studies. So it's not about finishing books. It is about information acquisition and putting that in your brain and revising those things. So yes, that was about timetable and revision. And then the next topics, or if we could go there, the next slide I think is temperament. That is the final thing that I think हाँ ये again revision कैसे करना है. Okay, so one of the things is tests. Okay, so a lot of students okay, I know I'm speaking a lot, but it's like I have anticipated a lot of questions that usually students tend to ask, and I get the same questions. So I'm trying to answer many of the questions that you might get. And then of course in the end we are going to have a Q&A where we will try to address many of these questions. But the main questions that I can anticipate, I'm trying to answer them. So yes. So tests, again, that is a very important question that is asked, that when should we give tests and how should we give tests. So tests, so again, everyone has a different approach to tests. What I used to do is that during the first reading, usually I would not give tests. I would sometimes current affairs ke tests I would give, I think. But usually during the first reading, मतलब पहली बार जब पढ़ रहे हैं एकदम पहली बार, तो I used to not give tests. Why? Because then that would scare me कि मैं पढ़ रही हूँ and I am not able to solve those questions. So that is just what happened with me. And after that, with the second reading, what would happen is in the second reading I've already read things once and I'm reading them for the second time. तो थोड़ा brain को पता है कि what are the things. So during the second time I would try to give sectional tests. So second time में अगर पढ़ रही हूँ economy, then I'm giving economy specific tests the second time I'm reading. And during the third time I would try to give general पूरा mixed test कि not just economy, not just geography, but all the subjects together. Yeah, so that's how I would go about with my tests, sectional tests or mixed tests. um, Again, for some topics certain tests are also very important. For example, when it comes to economy, then there are tests which focus only on, like, sir will have tests that focus only on economic survey, tests that focus only on budget. So try to get these kind of tests also, because then what will happen is you will completely cover that particular aspect of your study. So taking tests is also a form of revision. Then the and so that is all that I have to say about revision. Now I think we are going to talk about temperament. Yeah. So when it comes to prelims, I think the biggest reason why prelims is a hurdle for so many people is this feeling of, like, the sheer numbers that are involved when it comes to pre. That people tend to think, बाप रे ये 9 लाख लोग, 8 लाख लोग फॉर्म भर रहे हैं, फिर 4-5 लाख लोग तो एग्जाम ही दे रहे हैं. So 4-5 लाख लोगों में how can I be that one person that gets selected amongst the 12,000? So that fear that when you go into that exam hall or lakho log across the country are giving the exam, or just that idea of how, मतलब प्री को ना आई थिंक थोड़ा ज्यादा बड़ा बना के रखा है. एवरीवन इज लाइक प्री 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 ने निकलती क्या डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चंस आते हैं, अनप्रेडिक्टेबल, यू नो, लाइक आई थिंक वो देयर इज टू मच playing with the psyche when it comes to pre, and that is an aspect that we don't address enough. That pre has been turned into like this really big deal. बाप रे प्रीलिम का पेपर, प्रीलिम का पेपर. पर क्या है, it's just 100 questions that are between you and the next level of UPSC CSE exam, right? And the best part is वो 100 questions are there, उनके 4 options हैं और वो answer is in front of you. Now the question is how to find that answer. Many a times, and I'm saying this confidently as a person who as a person, not that who has given pre many times, but as a person with whom many other friends who are in the services have given the pre and unfortunately not cleared also. So essay, there is nothing like someone is more experienced, that's why they're clearing pre, or someone is less experienced, that's why they're not clearing pre. The Let me tell you this with 100% honesty, that prelims is like the great equalizer. Okay, when people are sitting there for the prelims paper, for it is the same for everyone. For someone who has given the interview, someone who is in the service, or someone who might be giving it the first time, it is the paper is the same for everyone. Of course, when people are going in, what is the advantage that they are taking in with them? One advantage might be कि उन्होंने ज्यादा पढ़ाई की है, ओके, और उनको ज्यादा पता है कि अरे भाई इसका तो थर्ड अटेम्प्ट है फॉर एग्जांपल, तो उन्होंने ज्यादा पढ़ रखा है बिकॉज दे हैव गिवन 3 अटेम्प्ट्स. This advantage you can completely blunt or neuter. How? Because you can study enough and then you can be like मैंने भी पढ़ा है. So let me tell you, there are a lot of so called seniors who will say कि यार ये freshers आजकल pass हो रहे हैं exam because they know more. So there's nothing like someone because they have given more attempts they know more. A little bit maybe थोड़े करंट अफेयर्स के जो 2-3 साल से क्वेश्चन आ रहे हैं तो अरे हाँ मैंने 2-3 साल पहले पढ़ा था, पर उनका भी इतना कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं होता, लेट मी टेल यू. So study advantage, I feel like you can deal with it, and you can also study very hard and try to get rid of that advantage. The second advantage, I think, which is more important, is that of experience, that they are walking in thinking कि I have passed pre before, pre is not a big deal, ये इतना क्या है, ये इतना solve करो और हो जाएगा. So someone who has given past pre before, they come in with that certain level of confidence going into the paper कि हाँ ये tough ही होता है, last year भी tough लगा था, clear तो हो गया था, right? So you also need to build a temperament where you are not afraid of the exam. It is not a big deal, it is just an exam. जीने मरने का सवाल नहीं है. I don't know why this is, I mean, this is me going off topic, but UPSC has kind of been made into that kind of a thing. So when you're going in to give prelims, please try to keep a temperament where you are not going to come out of the exam hall, look at the question and regret कि इसका तो मुझे आंसर पता था, I had studied this so many times, why did I mark B when it was C? Why did I do that? I know that the answer is C. Why did I mark B? ये बहुत बार होता है और ये क्यों होता है? Because we tend to psych ourselves up. Like when we go, we don't have the right kind of temperament. So first thing is to remember that it is just an exam. It is just everyone is giving the exam. सबके लिए paper same आता है. And to convince yourself or to tell your mind again and again that it is no big deal. It is just an exam. Okay, so you go in with that mindset कि मैंने बोर्ड एग्जाम दिया है, 10th में दिया है, 12th में दिया है, कॉलेज पास किया है मैंने, सो मैं ये भी कर सकती हूँ. इट्स नॉट दैट बिग अ डील. So you first you tell your mind that, and then you build that confidence for yourself that I have prepared enough. How do you do that? When I tell you कि नहीं prelims, what is the first thing that comes to your mind which worries you the most? What is it? कि मेरे enough tests नहीं होंगे, मेरा enough revisions नहीं होंगे. So you first think of what is that weak point which will affect you or which will bother you, and then go about tackling that weak point, so that when you're going into the exam, you are not thinking कि मेरी revision रह गई या मेरे tests रह गए. Okay, you have done that. After that, I think it is very important to have to focus on meditation. It does help in calming the mind a lot. Do regular meditation. This will seem like सारे toppers बोलते हैं, ऐसे थोड़ी होता है, but trust me, meditation is important. You do need to meditate regularly. Or if you don't like meditating, what you can do is you can go for a walk, or you can do something like that. And or you can have a friend who gives you a lot of pep talks and motivates you, or your family, so focus on them. So that's it. That's about temperament. Those are the three things that I wanted to talk to you about. To just revise what I said, the first thing that I talked about was sources and not leaving anything to options. Second thing I talked about was timetable and revision. And the third thing that I talked about was about temperament. Lastly, I think the topic that I have not discussed much is current affairs. So I think that will come in the questions. So yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rujuta, for sharing your experience with the students, and I'm sure the students will be benefited and will use your experience to make their preparation in more organized manner, so that they can go in the examination with the confidence and clear this prelims examination. So a lot of students have asked questions. So I will read one by one question, and then I will request you to share your experience on these questions. The first question is like, which are the topics to begin in prelims preparation, like a static topics or dynamic? If a static, then from which subject?
Okay, so this will involve a little bit of work on your part, or you can ask your teacher, because I don't think there is any hard and fast rule as to um, which topics are the questions coming from. So what you can do is you can look at the past year question papers, and rather than analyzing the whole paper at one go, you can go subject wise. So you can sit in, today I'm going to look at the past 10 years questions related to polity. And you in the market, you're also going to find books which do this for you, which will slot the questions for you. Or if it makes you feel better, what you can do is you can manually do it, because I feel this will be a good exercise. It will take you about 2 hours probably. So you can sit with the paper, and if you're doing geography, for example, then you can sit and you can try to slot the geography questions ki kahan se aa rahe hain. And then you might get surprising results such as most questions to mapping से आ रहे हैं और mapping से आते थे, and you might end up doing static things and mapping से ही questions ज्यादा आ रहे हैं. Last year मतलब 2020 में तो mapping से कोई question नहीं आया था. So what that will help in is, it will help you in understanding the trend. Now the thing about UPSC is, I don't think UPSC follows a very specific trend. हर साल कुछ अलग ही होता है. So what you can do is, at least you can try to do certain topics की ये important है. Static में ना, you can, I think there is a little bit of a trend. Like parliament से question आ रहे हैं, ऐसे कुछ static में थोड़ा बहुत है. So try to just make your own list कि main questions यहाँ से आ रहे हैं, and begin with that. That's what I mean by topics.
Thank you, Rujuta. We'll move to the next question. The next question is how to cover economy subject.
Economy, what I did was, I used to focus a lot on the NCRT, the macroeconomics NCRT. Doing basics of economy is extremely important. And I used to make notes related to the main, whatever the formula are, or I used to make flowcharts. For example, if you have the budget, then capital, revenue, वो सब चीजें. So for that, या अगर मतलब fiscal deficit का formula हो गया, GDP का formula हो गया. So for economy and then macroeconomics, macroeconomics NCRT, especially if you don't have a background in like economy or math or something, then it might get a little bit too much. But those parts are not relevant. There are graphs and charts and all that. Those are not relevant. Focus on the examples that are given in the macroeconomics NCRT and focus on the formulae that they have used. It's an excellent NCRT. So macroeconomics NCRT did help a lot. Along with that, I used to read economy ke, you can read a book or you can read any class ke notes that are covering topics which are not there in the NCRT. So again, like I keep stressing, more topic wali padhai. So what you can do is, if you're reading monetary policy, so along with monetary policy, you can do banking chapter and you can do monetary policy from the book, right? So if you'll do what narrow money, broad money, वो सब topics एक जगह आप कर रहे हो. If you were to read banking chapter with that, it is like you'll finish everything related to banking. तो वैसे topic wise थोड़ा, like if you're doing budgeting, then do fiscal policy along with it. ऐसी पढ़ाई for economy. Similarly, economy का you should read ये economic survey पूरा पढ़ना. If you have the time, I would recommend it, mainly because it helps in your mains also. It helps you in understanding the government perspective. And at least the last few years with Mr. Arvind Subramaniam, it was amazing. The economic survey, the phrases were great, and the diagrams and twin balance sheet. So economic survey is very interesting. But from pre-perspective, the issue is that it might get a bit too much. So pick up any compilation for economic survey and try to focus on what are certain new terms or stuff like that have been used. And budget is also equally important. So you can read the actual budget document if you like doing that, or if you don't, then just pick up a compilation. But don't skip these things. Like economic survey और budget करना ही है, skip मत करो. पूरा मजा आ रहा है तो पूरा पढ़ो, नहीं आ रहा है तो compilation पढ़ो. Either.
Thank you, Rujuta. The next question is regarding current affair, that how to cover current affair. And another question from our students are that do they have to read a newspaper or they have to cover this from some magazine? Because students feel that reading newspaper is a difficult task. So what is your suggestion?
I think that preparing for prelims, current affairs, newspaper is not a good idea, because every single day you cannot sit and make a list of मतलब एक चीज जो आती है from prelims perspective. But I do feel that reading the newspaper is indispensable for UPSC preparation, because it helps in developing your language, it helps in developing your awareness and your analytical ability as well. Of course, you can anyone can clear the exam doing anything. मतलब मैं यहाँ पे whatever I'm saying, the exact opposite of it is also true, because someone might have cleared the exam doing that. Someone might have cleared the exam without reading the newspaper. But I'm talking only about my experience, and I'm not a very rigid person, so I wouldn't say कि this is the way to go. But yes, from prelims perspective, I don't think newspaper is necessary. From mains perspective, it is more necessary. Interview के लिए तो करना ही पड़ता है. For a prelims, you can read any magazine. Along with that, so what worked for me is, me and my friends, we had a group, and we had divided months among us, and उस month का we used to do PIB and जो कुछ websites है online. So we used to refer various websites के current affairs, and one person only had to do 1 month, and we had to do kind of handwritten, so that used to work for us. So what you can do is you can form a group and divide your notes amongst yourselves. But yeah, monthly magazine. And one more important thing for current affairs is, जो मैंने whatever I said earlier about 1 reading and 3 revisions, I used to do that for for current affairs as well. So a lot of people tend to do current affairs एकदम end में कि पूरा हो गया, let me see क्या क्या आ रहा है current affairs में, फिर end में करना है. It doesn't work that way. UPSC has been asking current affairs from, ऐसे नहीं है कि एकदम recent current affairs पूछ लिया, थोड़ा earlier भी पूछ रहे हैं. So try to do around a year or a year and a half का current affairs. I know it's a lot, which is why I'm saying that you need to revise it. You current affairs एक बार कर लिया तो याद नहीं रहेगा. So current affairs also you need to read at least 2 to 3 times before the exam.
Okay.
So figure it into your timetable.
Okay. Perfect. Rujuta, will move to the next question. Next question is regarding CSAT. That how one should approach the CSAT paper.
For CSAT, I think जो main first figure out what are your strengths and weaknesses. It is not a good strategy to only do math, or to only do comprehension, or to only do logic and reasoning. So again, with CSAT, try to uh, solve all the different kinds of questions. Then you have to play to your strengths. So if you're better at math than you are at comprehension, begin the paper with those kind of questions. Then at this stage, what I would recommend is buy any standard book for CSAT and try to at least know the tricks for each of the different questions that are asked. So see, for people who have a background in like मतलब जो इंजीनियर ये सब, उनको लगता होगा ये बहुत बेसिक है, बट आई एम अ लॉ स्टूडेंट, सो आई विल टेल यू दैट यू डू नीड टू नो थोड़े ट्रिक्स एंड फॉर्मूले भी नहीं है, वैसे ट्रिक्स ही है. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल वो टाइम स्पीड डिस्टेंस वाले क्वेश्चंस आर देयर, यहाँ से ट्रेन आई, यहाँ से ट्रेन आई, सो यू जस्ट नीड टू नो हाउ टू सॉल्व इट. आई मीन आप लोग यूपीएससी कर रहे हो तो सीसैट के लिए मतलब इट्स इजी, इतना कुछ ब्रेन्स नहीं लगता उसके लिए. यू जस्ट नीड टू नो व्हाट इट इज. या फॉर एग्जांपल इफ देयर आर दोस क्यूब्स, यहाँ पे ऐसा नंबर है, वहां पे वैसा नंबर है, सो हाउ टू सॉल्व. जस्ट लुक एट यूट्यूब वीडियोस, या क्लास में सर को पूछो, दे विल टेल यू देयर आर ट्रिक्स फॉर ईच ऑफ दीज थिंग्स. या वो फैमिली में दिस पर्सन रिलेटेड टू दैट पर्सन, ये इसका कौन है, अरे मतलब इट्स सो बेसिक. जस्ट इफ यू डोंट गिव इट एनी टाइम एट ऑल ना, फिर वो मतलब देन इट बिकम्स डिफिकल्ट. बट बेसिकली इफ यू वर टू गिव इट सम टाइम, थोड़ा सा क्लोजर टू द एग्जाम, बट नॉट सो क्लोज की टेंशन आ जाए, दो महीने पहले थोड़ा सा ये सब चीजें देख लो, हाउ टू सॉल्व दीज डिफरेंट क्वेश्चंस, एंड क्लोजर टू द एग्जाम एटलीस्ट द लास्ट 2 to 3 weeks, what I would recommend is यूपीएससी के ही जो लास्ट 10 year के क्वेश्चन पेपर्स है सीसैट के, वो सॉल्व करना एट 2 o'clock एवरी डे, बिकॉज अदरवाइज वी टेंड टू गेट स्लीपी और वो बोर हो जाता है. तो you are in the exam hall, you're going to be answering those questions in the afternoon, right? So your brain should be trained in a manner कि उस time slot में वो CSAT कर रहे हो. So 2 to 3 weeks before the exam, start solving UPSC past year question papers in the afternoon for CSAT. But don't skip it, and don't ऐसे कि हाँ last minute कर लेंगे, ऐसे मत करो please. And try to attempt at least 60 questions. I think 60 to 70, 70 ज़्यादा होते हैं, मेरे तो होते नहीं थे उतने. 60, 65 तो करो attempt.
The key is to do, a lot of practice.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
we'll move to the next question. That this is the last question. A lot of questions from the student that how many tests they should always go before, attending the prelims examination. In which month they need to solve how many test series, how many
Hmm.
test paper, which test papers. They have these kind of questions from the students. So if you
Okay.
give your suggestion on this, I think that will help a lot of students.
Uh, Tests, there is no fixed number of tests. I don't know why in UPSC we always tend to ask कितने किए, 100 किए, 20 किए, इतने. So कि मतलब there is no guarantee that the questions are going to come from that test. The whole point of the test is to practice how much you know. So giving tests is definitely important. I addressed this a little bit earlier. How many tests does not matter. What matters is uh, one, you should definitely solve the test. What matters is how you are attempting the tests. मतलब if you know पढ़ाई करके दे रहे हो उतनी या सिर्फ test for the sake of test. मतलब I have noticed sometimes what happens is students are by hearting the answers given in the test. So it is important to know the answers that are given in the test. Which what you should wonder is why I did not come across this particular point in my studies, or if it was not at all covered in your studies, then just highlight that and you need to revise that as well. uh, Try to study beforehand and give the tests not as a form of कि यहाँ पे क्वेश्चन पेपर रखा है, यहाँ पे आंसर शीट रखा है और ऐसे ऐसे करके पढ़ रहे हो. That is not a form of पढ़ाई. The whole point of the test is when you go inside the hall, your strategy should be set. Strategy मतलब क्या? Like for example, I used to have the strategy that I would attempt minimum 85 questions, and everyone has a different thing. I have lots of friends who used to attempt pure 100 questions. That is up to you. I used to attempt 85 to 87 questions, and so my strategy was that I would always, in the first 1 hour, I would try to go through the entire question paper, and then another round and then another round. So ये जो strategy है, ये you need to fine tune that when you are solving the tests, that how am I going to attempt in those 2 hours. So you should have a proper OMR sheet and you sit with that OMR sheet, पूरा time लगा के 2-2 घंटे की test देनी है, so that your strategy is fine tuned, and on the day of the exam you shouldn't last minute make changes and try to do something else. Number of tests, I don't have an answer to that question, but like I said before, first do sectional tests and then do mixed tests. So that works. I mean, I used to do that. Another thing I would recommend is don't try to do only one kind of tests or only एक ही class के tests. I know I'm here on the platform of level IS, but I would really like to. This is an important point that level IS के भी tests करो और सारे मतलब minimum एक 3 or 4 different classes के tests करने हैं, because you don't want your thinking to be as per the thinking of the examiner. Your thinking should be कि कोई भी question आए, I should be able to solve that. So the best thing to do is solve 3-4 different classes के answers, and at the same time UPSC के past questions solve करना भी काफी important है. So what you can do is you can begin with sectional tests, mixed tests, and then as the exam comes close, try to focus on UPSC papers, so that your mindset, your approach becomes as per UPSC papers. So closer to the exam, try to do UPSC papers.
Thank you, Rujuta, for answering all these
Yeah.
questions and sharing your experience with all these students. Because definitely, at this point of time when prelims is approaching, students are just they are in deep stress. They don't know what to do, and then they are in this vicious cycle that what I should study, which method I should follow, which strategy I should follow, or should I read this, or should I read that. There are a lot of questions, and I'm sure today's session has helped a lot of students in getting lot of answers on their part. And I'm sure these suggestions given by you on various topics, such as like how to fix times, how many tests, or like creating their own strategy. This will help lot of students, and it will benefit them in clearing the examination. So, Rujita, thanks a lot for taking out your time, coming on the Level Up IS platform, and sharing your experience with the students. So, I will also like to thank all the students who are watching who are watching us right now. And if you think that I have left some questions, definitely will come back to you with the answers. And if you have any doubt, you can call us, or you can write an email on students@levelupis.com, or you can call us at 8826486658. Once again, I'm repeating the mobile number: 8826486658. And definitely we are there to help you in solving your queries. Thank you so much for watching
Thank you,
this
sir,
session.
for inviting me and giving me an opportunity to put forth my views. I would like to give my best wishes to all the students who are appearing for prelims this year. Just relax and have fun. Everyone says enjoy the process, so I won't say it, but trust me, it is very enjoyable. Now I look back upon it with a lot of nostalgia. I mean, it hasn't been ek hi saal ho gaya since I last gave the exam, but I look upon it very fondly. And trust me, you're going to look back upon this time and you're going to enjoy it. So zyada stress mat karo, have fun, study well, eat well, and get good sleep. And if you have any questions, you can ask me. I have a blog which you can Google and you can put it on the blog, or I have Instagram. That is the only social media that I kind of have right now. So you can contact me there with your questions. Okay. All right. All the best, and thank you, sir, for inviting me. Thank
No,
you
no,
so much.
thank
It
you.
was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rujita. Thank you, everyone, for